Can send you a little reminder. Hey, we got you in the Capitol on January 6th. You haven't been charged yet. Would you like to see these papers? Would you like to have these served? Oh, no? Well, maybe you should shut up about covering that story you're covering. If you don't think that could potentially be going on, then you have no idea what country you live in. But upon seeing this, even though I've felt that way and warned that that is the case for a while, why would they be promoting that? Why would they be telling the public that that's a potential? Or is this a save face campaign as they're losing the narrative and losing the momentum, saying, hey, well, wait a second, though, we've still got more people we want to charge? How do you see this, Pete?
I know exactly how to see it because they did the same thing to us. And what they do is they'll kind of put the rumors out there because they're listening. But they want to see who's talking. They're continuously listening. A lot of people may have gone, quote unquote, dark because they went in and took a selfie in the rotunda, but they got quiet or basically they're putting it out there. They're floating it out there to cause some fear, cause people to talk. They did the same exact thing to us. We had 28, I think, total defendants, and they said that they were going to round up thousands of people that went to the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. It was all a rumor, and they, again, they have very sophisticated surveillance technology. They're listening. Now, right now, it's a race to get this information out, and here's the information we're talking about. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't been able to even make public because we want it to come out in court. We want them to be shocked that we know the truth. We want shock in the courtroom and bring them to their knees because here's the truth. It was really not just a color revolution. We're talking about the military being involved. Some of the military personnel that had shoot to kill orders came from a 30-mile away Quantico, Virginia, off-site location. The FBI deployed those military personnel and special forces operators into D.C. Now, if you have U.S. military active duty, they've got a little-known technique that they use. The front face for their benefit, a false narrative. The front face of the January 6th is the most beautiful patriotic event that I had ever been to.
No, I say it was the largest civil rights march in U.S. history.
It was. And, someone who is an activist and has been, in fact, I know somebody that went to high school with Jacob Chansley. So I started asking questions. Now, who is this guy? He's a little bit, eccentric. He's got the horns, and there was a lot of attention placed on him. But that's who he is. As far as eccentricity, I knew him to be, and I was told this by John Ritzheimer, who just so happened to be a co-defendant in the Bundy Ranch trials. But John Ritzheimer went to high school with Jacob Chansley. He said, he's a great guy. He will give you, because I was asking about the shirt, it was freezing out there. He said, he probably, because of his character, gave his shirt to somebody who was cold. He's that kind of guy. Warm, genuine, an activist, making his point, but certainly not a violent person. This was told to me by somebody that knew him for many years and a fellow activist that was out at protests. So the truth about Jacob Chansley, what they do is they get their imagery going. They had cameras. This was a false flag operation. They knew well in advance. It was all scripted. They knew that their operatives were going to be in there provocateuring and causing other people to do things that they normally wouldn't do. Well, guess what? The cameras are there, the mainstream media, and guess what else? Another operation that was going on is all the documentary film crews that were out there. Those documentary film crews were intel operatives, and they were the ones to get the appropriate images, cherry picking the violence and anything that they could use to for the benefit of propagating this false narrative that people went there to perpetrate insurrection. Well, I'll tell you what, the truth is now coming out, and I have, and I'm proud to announce that I'm joined, and this is an exclusive for InfoWars. Alex mentioned something in his pre-recorded message that maybe I'm not going to put words in his mouth. He can go back and listen to it. But I do believe that even I judged Jacob Chansley. I didn't know who he was, and I had to find out a little bit more about him. I don't know him personally, but through my conversations with his mother, people who know him, and of course, the videos that we've recently seen, we now know, ladies and gentlemen, that Jacob Chansley, as he went into the Senate and he was being escorted by law enforcement, no, from what I understand, and he was saying this right from the very beginning, he was offering to help. He didn't want bad things to happen inside the Capitol, and he offered to help the police. That's why he was not just being escorted, he was actually part of law enforcement to help tamper the crowd down and to de-escalate. He offered to do that. They accepted his offer, and that's why he was standing there in and out of the Senate chamber to de-escalate. And then when they asked him to leave, guess what? He left, and he left peacefully. But that truth never made it to the judge, never made it to even the prosecution and the defense. I think the defense attorney originally, as they typically do, I'm going to let Martha Chansley speak to this.
And is she joining us next segment, Pete?
Money. She's going to join us next segment. We have an exclusive message from Jake from the Gulag for our InfoWars viewing audience.
Okay, so this is coming up on the other side of this break, and I want to even expand on what Pete was saying there, because, folks, I mean, you're talking about agents literally giving this guy a tour of the Capitol.
When everything is a lie, which it is now, there's only one place to find the truth, and it's not in government stats or government reports or declarations. It's with God, and I know you speak about that often. And I believe, look, we need God more than ever. And I know that there are people listening, perhaps, that don't believe in God, but I'm a big believer in having faith, even though I'm rather pessimistic. I do know how the book ends. I know how the story ends. And we do prevail.
Exactly. There are no atheists in foxholes.
Where there's life, there's hope. So don't lose hope. Don't get discouraged. I know that there are people out there thinking, well, what's left for me to do? One of the things, and again, this is not a shame, or this is not a plug, but we need to support your InfoWars store. We need to support yours. By the way, my wife loves Turmeric 95. Her joints have never been better. Okay, so Folks, make sure you support InfoWars Store. Okay, please do that.
Well, I just can't say to our listeners how much the enemies of freedom hate this show. They hate your show. I mean, I will plug for you and for me. Folks, you want us to fight? We will do it. But it's like sending military out to war without ammunition and weapons. I mean, and I'm not bitching. Back in like 2016, we had plenty of money. Our subscription service, I said it's free now. I barely was plugging. You know, we had all this extra money, and now I wish back then I was, would have pushed harder, saved up money, because now with the deplatforming and the attacks, folks, we need support. So do you. But what we really need is people to share the links and articles to our videos and your reports, Doug, because the public's ready. The ground's fertile right now. The mines are ready.
It's easy to outpace your supply lines. And I think that's where a lot of us are. We're in so deep that we can't. Look, we need that support. You need that support. So again, folks, please support Alex Jones. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I know there's things that he won't say that look, he needs your support. We all need your support, but especially Infowars.com, Infowars Store. Please do that. There it is, turmeric toothpaste. I love that too. My wife does as well. Big fan of all of your products. Okay, folks, don't lose hope. Please don't do that. I know that things look bleak, but we know how the story ends. And I think, look at everything that happens, not with blinders, but with in the context of a larger agenda. Think bigger, look bigger, and look for the connections.
I use the analogy of that great movie that's based on positive true stories, Horse 10 from Navarone, where they blow up the dam, it doesn't fall right away, and they all panic. The explosive expert goes, watch, it's gonna fall, take about 20 minutes, just watch.
We've been through all this and nothing but...
You have to let nature take her course.
And look, I think we've already blown the enemy. We just have to get ready and then stand back.
Amen to that. Amen. And you're doing a great job. And again, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to be part of your program today. I really appreciate what you do.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
I think there's no doubt that NIH was funding gain-of-function research.
Is it likely that American tax dollars funded the gain-of-function research that created this virus?
I think it did, not only from NIH, but from the State Department, USAID, and from DOD.
Leading a frontal assault on the lies of the New World Order, it's Alex Jones. You found it, the tip of the spear. It is the Alex Jones Show with Owen Schroyer.
Folks, the setup was on. Imagine you go to the Capitol, you're walking around, and then a bunch of government employees, police officers, feds, whoever, say, oh, here, we're going to lead you around the Capitol. Here, look, come over here. Lead a prayer over here. Here, look, lead a prayer over here. Hey, come over here. Come over here. And you follow them around. They're like an escort. And by the way, they tried to do that to Alex Jones, folks. And I mean, look, quite frankly, like people think that something that's going on behind the scenes. Folks, we're so discombobulated half the time. I'm lucky my head is screwed on straight. And so we were so discombobulated that day that the government agents that were trying to lead us the same way they led Jacob Chansley, the same people that tried to escort us, that escorted Jacob Chansley, basically just fell out because we were so discombobulated, discoordinated, trying to figure out what we were going to do that day that it didn't work out. But for Chansley, he wasn't so fortunate. He did have the government employee escort around the Capitol into and out, and then all of a sudden he ends up in jail for being in the Capitol when he had a government escort. That was the situation. And so Pete Santilli joins us once again here with Martha Chansley, the mother of Jacob Chansley, January 6th prisoner. Pete, let's go ahead and let you host this segment.
Thank you so much, Martha. First of all, I want to say thank you for the honor of having this conversation, because you and I would say, began talking maybe a year ago, and I shared with you the experiences that I had. But thank you for the honor of helping lay out the truth, because it's been a hard slog to get the truth out about Jacob Chansley, and what he was involved in was one of the most beautiful patriotic events on January 6th. And it was hard to get that truth out, hasn't it been?
Yeah, it has been hard to get it out. And thank you so much for having me, Pete.
You know, Martha, I want to, first of all, I wanted to make sure that, and these voices are tampered down, obviously, to keep a very powerful influencer. You know, can we call him eccentric? He can stand out, and he's a very, very articulate person. I've heard him on the stage, extremely wide awake. He has an awesome, powerful presence. That's why you would want to keep somebody like him in a box like he is right now. So I want to use this opportunity right out of the gate. So I want you to speak to our listening audience, and right now, until he's released, that in a little bit, but I want you to be his voice, his megaphone right now on his behalf. And you tell our listening audience what message you can convey on his behalf to the audience.
Well, as far as what's recently taken place, you know, he's very happy that this information has come to light, because this is the very thing that he said happened. So it is definitely vindicating to say, look, this is what I said happened. And now you see, here's the proof, here's the film.
And let's revisit that, because I remember you told me that right from day one. And I told you from a defendant's perspective, I knew I was innocent. I didn't break the law. So I was listening to what you were saying, like, and I heard very clearly that when I was actually kind of shocked when you said he was offering, I say shocked in that they allowed him to, but he was offering to law enforcement to help de-escalate the crowd inside the building. I heard that a year ago, I think. And guess what? That's come out, hasn't it? It's never been made public until recently. But what you said in the beginning, what Jake tried to tell people, is now we have documentary proof of that. And his attorney knew that part of the story as well. But he said that right from day one. He wanted to help law enforcement because he didn't want violence. He's not a violent person, is he?
He is not a violent person. No, he's very peaceful, loving, and kind. And as you mentioned before, yes, he would give you the shirt off of his back.
You know, I heard that, as I said, I know somebody who went to high school with him, and that was the conversation. You know, another thing that we were all hoping for, and I was there. I was hoping that something would have happened, that maybe Mike Pence would have said, that's it, enough is enough. Maybe him and President Trump were working. There's a lot of uncertainty, but we held a lot of hope. So the words that you hear for, like, if it was me and I had horns and I wouldn't go shirtless. It was too cold anyways, but he's a much more courageous man than I am. But the words he was speaking, like, this is it, let's go, let's do this. Because we were thinking that something spectacular was going to happen. And also, I knew that the Patriots that were there with Kevlar helmets and body armor and all that stuff, they were there to protect the crowd from Antifa. There was a mixed bag, and we weren't going to be afraid to go to Washington, D.C. So that whole mixed bag of stuff, if you listen, and I'll throw back to you so you can speak to this. If you listen to Jake's words and he's saying, man, this is it, we're going to do this. I mean, they convert that to like he was conspiring to do bad things, when in fact, we held out hope that something truly historic was going to happen on that day. And that's why we were there, we were present. Can you speak to that? He held out a lot of hope for his country. He's a Navy veteran, is he not?
He is a Navy veteran, yes.
So speak to some of that as to what he may have told you he was, hoping may have happened. I know it's real positive stuff.
Well, he was hoping, what we all were hoping, is that Pence would have not signed that he would have said, look, we need to investigate. We need to find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That is not what took place.
I will also say myself, I was thinking to myself now, Jacob Chansley is a Navy veteran. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I was hoping that the military at some point would get involved, because everybody knows that we now know that January 6th was part of a military coup. We now know this, and it's going to come out in court. But I digress. Set that aside. I was hoping something spectacular like that may have happened. And then, so when I saw the stuff, like with the smoke, and it was so awkward, and it was so completely the opposite of the reasons why we're there. I thought it was I'm like, this is kind of stupid right now. What's going on with the smoke, and why are the police firing into the crowd? So now I'm going to throw it back to you again. What do you remember about what he said? He's been very consistent. When he went inside, he didn't want stupid things to happen. He didn't want our house to be vandalized. He wanted people to be peaceful. And in fact, he's been on the record saying so. Our commander-in-chief said, go home. Let's go home. He took charge of the situation. Did he not?
Yeah, I thought he did. And he, as you mentioned before, and I've mentioned too, that he volunteered to help the police to de-escalate and help get people out. So, like, there's actual video out there that you hear him saying, let's respect the blue. I think he said, respect the blue, the men and women in blue is what he said, as they're escorting everybody out. And then you see other video of him standing outside that door where people were trying to go in. Did you see that one as well? And he's telling people, everybody, President Trump said he wants you to go home. It's time to go home.
Time to go home.
And even read the tweet. Somebody pulled up the tweet. President Trump's tweet.
That's right. Now, we have just about a couple of minutes here, and on the other side, let's talk about his present state. I'm understanding he's strong. Everyone wants to hear that. I want everyone to hear that. How's he doing? And what does the future hold for him? As in, how much longer could they possibly hold him and torture him in the fashion that they are? Stay right there. We'll be going to a break here, and then we'll talk about that on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned in live to the special broadcast here on Infowars.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new toothpaste that my dad, a retired dentist and oral surgeon, developed. Dr. Jones Naturals turmeric toothpaste that just came into stock. And I got to tell you, I got samples of this months ago, and it is amazing. The way it makes your gums feel, what it does to your mouth, is insane. We know turmeric is an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory and does such great things for the body. Then you add that with tea tree oil and a bunch of other essential oils. It is just dynamite. It is so good to detox and attack inflammation in your mouth. I want to challenge everybody to try the new toothpaste at InfoWarsStore.com. Dr. Jones Naturals turmeric toothpaste. And while you're at it, check out the new ashwagandha line of products. We have ashwagandha with black pepper extract for your libido, your testosterone in pill form, and we have the pure ashwagandha root gummies as well, now available at InfoWarsStore.com. They're amazing products, and they fund the InfoWar. Take action now at InfoWarsStore.com.
You need to get coordinated with not only your food, but also your health supplements, because it's going to be a matter of life and death. So support InfoWars Store. Listen, you need to put it as a priority, because you don't know, I don't know. Alex and I are telling you how late it is before midnight strikes. And again, magnesium is critical for your muscles and everything. Krill oil. What I'm watching right before my eyes is a composite overview of nutritional supplements that will keep you alive. And I would urge everyone, maybe you don't take vitamins, maybe you don't take nutritional supplements, but the day will come. Vitamin C and zinc, absolutely imperative for the colds. DNA force, absolutely imperative. Mineral fusion, absolutely. As you're drinking filtered water, a lot of it will become demineralized. You have to have these products.
The most banned man in America, Alex Jones.
I want you all to know something. Alex Jones was right.
Alex is right about far more than he's wrong.
Alex has been right on for over a decade.
I don't care how you slice it, dice it, flip it up, or rub it down. Alex Jones was right.
Think about how frustrated we are if you've been awake for a year or two. Imagine being like an Alex Jones or those guys who've been awake for like decades.
Alex Jones called this years ago. Years ago.
Alex Jones never bought the Russia hoax, not for a second.
You are one of the great thinkers of this.
You are a martyr to the First Amendment.
The government fears Alex Jones.
That's why the globalists hate me, is because I'm exposing their corporate worldwide tyranny.
Every time I talk to you, you're either like on the border exposing the cartels and like coming under fire, or you're on the streets of some American city hanging out with drug addicts and criminals, and now you've gone to ground zero of a massive chemical spill. Are you addicted to the danger, Savannah? Have you ever considered that for a second?
No, I'm addicted to helping my fellow Americans. I'm addicted to spreading the truth. And again, I have InfoWars to thank for that. Looking back on the day, I was able to ask President Donald Trump 2 questions. I was so grateful because, I truly was classically trained under Alex Jones and under the InfoWars team. And I really do credit that as to why I'm able to, get these types of clips, because Alex's whole mentality was, go where the story is, go where the mainstream media refuses to. So it's not that I'm addicted to the insanity. I'm just addicted to telling the truth and helping the American people. And I really do credit Alex for, really instilling that within me early on in my career.
Leading a frontal assault on the lies of the New World Order, it's Alex Jones.
We're back here live on the Alex Jones Show. Owen Schroyer sitting in studio for Alex. We do have Pete Santilli hosting right now with the mother of political prisoner Jacob Chansley, Martha Chansley, and I can't even imagine what she is going through watching her son go through this, but both of them clearly strong, and so we are praying for them. Quickly, before Pete takes back over, folks, remember to keep this transmission on the air by shopping at InfoWarsStore.com. I just figured out another product hack, the Ultimate Bone Broth Plus in a cup of hot coffee. I never saw this one coming, but I am enjoying it listening to Pete and Martha talk here. A cup of coffee with a scoop of Ultimate Bone Broth Plus in it really brings out the flavor. I'm telling you, folks, give that a try. I never saw this one coming. I am going to be enjoying this in the future. Now, back to Pete Santilli with Martha Chansley.
Thank you, Owen. And it's amazing seeing, and I'm going to say, even Martha as a family member and I'm not saying we're victims, okay? We are the politically persecuted. And when I say victim, when you have the full force of the government, Martha Chansley, coming upon your
Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and there's a lot more evidence coming out of the U.S. purposely pushing themselves into a collapsed empire to prop up China as a new global empire. We see this out of Gateway Pundit. It says, criminal. Payments made to the Biden family reported by Oversight Committee have direct link to the Chinese Communist Party. And we're seeing a lot of headlines like this. Another one out of Gateway Pundit. It says, Representative Jamie Raskin covered for the Bidens and claimed bank records showed Papa John's and Starbucks purchases, ignored the $1 million from the Chinese government. Then we have this from Gateway Pundit as well. Outrageous. Biden's bailout of Silicon Valley Bank helped save investment flows to sensitive Chinese aerospace and defensive ventures. And this is all leading to one place. Look, they're purposely destroying the U.S. empire. We see this Air Force looking to hire diversity, equity, and inclusion managers and paying top dollar, as we see China and Russia and India and Israel and places like, of course, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, South Africa, Egypt, Turkey, all combined forces, Iraq, Iran. It really does send an obvious message here that versus a bunch of trans people on the battlefield, it goes without saying that the American empire is coming to an end, and we see the same with the European empire and the British empire. Meanwhile, China is proposing an initiative on a global civilization, and they're calling for one world government. But of course, who's going to be backing that one world government? Well, it's the same as Klaus Schwab has said for a while. The idea of the Great Reset, the role model for it, of course, is the Chinese government and their technocracy, which has been propped up by the U.S. for a long time. And the creation of the BRICS world reserve currency system and the use of 15-minute cities, which is similar to China's zero COVID policy, which will soon be the zero carbon policy worldwide. It's no doubt that this global civilization is being built before our eyes, and the United States is helping to create that system. No matter how much they say we want to go to war with China, we're going to go to war with China over Taiwan. That's just one of the excuses so that it looks natural for people when we see this massive shift to this new order, which is based in technocracy, social credit, the cashless society, etc. So there's a lot to break down today in this video, but before we do, my friends, make sure to check those links below. HeavensHarvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WHAM, W-A-M, and you get free shipping on much of these products. And even if you don't qualify, I still urge you to use code WHAM because it helps keep you alive and us alive. And think of how much money you're saving on this. One of the biggest things that they're pushing forward for the Great Reset is to starve people out, destroy the supply chain so you get their mRNA-infused rations as the shop shelves are empty. And a 72 serving entry kit for $183.99. Think of how much money 72 servings usually cost. Or this, we have the entry 3-month kit, $551.97. Think of how much money you spend on 3 months of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. Again, experts say you need at least 3 months of storable foods in a supply chain crisis. And the 3-month combo kit actually comes with the food, the seeds, the water filtration, the books, and everything. So consider doing this today and not waiting until the shelves are empty, because this is one of the #1 ways they are going to get us. That and the banking system. So it's HeavensHarvest.com. Use code WHAM. And on the subject of the banking system, with the cashless society, that's one of the #1 ways they're enslaving us too. So check out KirkElliottPhD.com/WHAM in the links below and buy gold and silver today physically. You'll get a whole bunch of free special reports. And of course, you get to talk with Kirk Elliott, who is the author of 11 books. He's a double PhD. He's been on a lot of major shows, including ourselves, InfoWars, etc. And all you have to do is go to that sign-up sheet and put in your email, first name, last name, phone number, schedule a time to have a call with him, and you can liquidate your IRA, 401k, 403b, checking, savings, or brokerage accounts into physical gold and silver today. This is a very important move to making sure that you are financially safe versus the Great Reset. So check those links in the description, my friends. We try to provide solutions for these problems. So this is out of Gateway Pundit. It says criminal payments made to the Biden family reported by Oversight Committee have direct link to the Chinese Communist Party. And as the article goes into, it says the firm that paid the Biden family over $1 million is related to the Chinese Communist Party. Yesterday, the U.S. House Oversight Committee released information revealing that they uncovered through subpoenas $1 million to the Biden family from a related party right after that party received a $3 million payment from China. It continues here. It says the Chinese related firm that made the payment was State Energy HK Limited. This was not the first time that we heard of this company. In November 2020, Senators Grassley and Johnson reported the same entity. Senate Finance Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley and the Senate Homeland Security Chairman Ron Johnson unveiled what they called a supplemental to the report they published in late September in the thick of the 2020 election, an effort that was panned by critics as a partisan attempt to damage the elder Biden's image and led to claims that the Republicans were dabbling in Russian disinformation, which the GOP investigators denied as baseless, insisting their effort was grounded in documented facts and had uncovered troubling connections. They always say, oh, it's the Russians, it's the Russians. Well, no matter how much evidence you have, it's always the Russians, right? And I quote, these new records confirm the connections between the Biden family and the communist Chinese government, as well as the links between Hunter Biden's business associates and the Russian government, and further support the committee's September 23rd, 2020 reports finding that such relationships created counterintelligence and extortion concerns. The senators wrote in the 5-page report, which was followed by 65 pages of evidence. The Senate investigation update noted that in February and March 2017, a Shanghai-based company called State Energy HK Limited sent 2 wires, each in the amount of $3 million to a bank account for Robinson Walker LLC, but that it's unclear what the true purpose is behind these transactions and who the ultimate beneficiary is. State Energy HK Limited was affiliated with CEFC under the leadership of Yi Jinping, who had ties to the Chinese Communist Party and Chinese military, and whose deputy, Gong Wendong, another business associate of Hunter Biden's, also received funds from State Energy HK. And I quote, these transactions are a direct link between Walker and the communist Chinese government, and because of his close association with Hunter Biden, yet another tie between Hunter Biden's financial arrangements and the communist Chinese government, Grassley and Johnson concluded. Yesterday's report from the House provided additional support for the transaction in the form of bank statements. The Bidens were taking money from the CCP. This is likely criminal activity. And we have to remember that this is all part of the agenda. And of course, anyone that's working with the Chinese government is tied up in their business dealings as well, because of course the Chinese government basically runs all the businesses in China. And this isn't like, oh, well, they say, oh, well, Russia, it's all Russia's fault and it's all disinformation. Well, this is all planned in a way in order to make it appear as though there are some, there is some divide between the countries. But the reality is the Soviets were propped up by the U.S. And of course, the Chinese Communist Party was propped up by the U.S. And we'll go into some more right away. But I got to point out that Henry Kissinger met with Mao Zedong in the early 1970s to create an alliance with China to solidify this alliance, making them a monopoly and saving them from starvation when their government was about to collapse. So they saved them. And what happened next? Well, of course, the rest is history. This led to the creation of the Trilateral Commission under Zbigniew Brzezinski, which was, and in his words, utilizing China as a guinea pig state to create a global technocratic order. So when we see now China calling for a world government, we see them calling for a global citizenship with their backing. It makes sense considering back in the early 1970s under Nixon, we know that the French actually sent battleships to New York Harbor because they found out that the U.S. didn't have the gold reserves that they said they had. So, for example, there's a gold standard, but the gold standard was they would give out more IOU notes than they actually had in physical gold. The vaults were empty. It's similar to what we're seeing right now with the banking collapse. The vaults are empty. And so they sent battleships to New York Harbor, and in response to the French government, Nixon took the U.S. off of the gold standard and put us on a fiat standard, and then went and sent Henry Kissinger as a diplomat to Saudi Arabia. And in his work in Saudi Arabia, he got the Saudis to agree to utilize the U.S. dollar in trades for oil. And now that's coming to a close because now Saudi Arabia is joining the BRICS World Reserve Currency System, a basket of currencies similar to the special drawing rights at the IMF. And it completely concludes the so-called petrodollar. And we know India and Sri Lanka are moving completely into the yuan in this system. And India is a historical enemy of China. They shoot at each other at the borders. But here we are, they're building up this economic alliance together because, of course, already the amount of people in that economic alliance are larger than, of course, the IMF's system as far as population goes. So this is one of the biggest economic shifts in history, and this is the Great Reset. This is what they've been talking about all this time, my friends. And we have to remember where this is going. They've already built this blueprint long ago. And we mentioned a bunch of headlines earlier in the video about how all these tie-ins with the Chinese government and the US government and the Bidens. And remember, Joe Biden claimed that all this stuff about China regarding the COVID stuff and the lockdowns and all that was just pure anti-Chinese, anti-Asian propaganda. Well, now he's claiming that he wants to go to war with China over Taiwan, which I want to go on the ground and report on. If you want to help support me in the Go Get Funding, Patreon, or Subscribe Star campaigns in the description, so I can go on the ground and report on this history. I need to make enough money here to actually be able to do that, so we could record history before it's erased. But with that said, we have all those examples, and we have, of course, just this pretext to, this world reserve currency system. This is the Great Reset, my friends. And we've been seeing this culminate for a long time. And this is why they're destroying the Western Empire. That's why they're destroying the dollar. That's why they're destroying the banking system. That's why they're cutting off oil and gas. That's why they're bringing in these climate restrictions. That's why they are destroying the supply chain so that people are dependent on, of course, these rations that will be based on your carbon credit meter, essentially, which will be tied to your smart meter, which will determine how much gas, electricity, and water you use on a daily basis, which will determine your food rations versus your carbon credit score and how much you can travel and how much you can leave 15-minute cities. And of course, that was always a plan. Of course, they want people in a reset scenario where they can't move and do whatever they want. And of course, we've already seen the Chinese government and military have police in the United States. They have military on Canadian military bases, and in places like North Dakota, they have bases, land, I should say. They're not officially bases, next to the U.S. military, the U.S. Air Force, and these big plots of land that Bill Gates is buying. This is all by design. Again, the zero COVID policy in China was their litmus test for the zero carbon policy worldwide, and it is so evident that this is exactly the case. And as we see them dumb down the military in the United States, it's all by design, of course, as well. And of course, China is talking about giving arms to Russia in their fight against the U.S. And on top of that, going after Taiwan, where then the U.S. says they will defend Taiwan, and that will lead to confrontation. The Chinese government has already warned recently that there will definitely, they said definitely, be a confrontation with the U.S., assuming they continue their path. But the whole thing is fake. It's a script in order to make it look more believable when we see this massive reset to this global civilization based on the Chinese model. This was always the idea. Again, going back to the Trilateral Commission by under Zbigniew Brzezinski, and now that Saudi Arabia is joining BRICS, we are walking dead set, all roads lead to Rome, into this new world of tomorrow, as Klaus Schwab calls it. As he says, China is a role model for the Great Reset. And as Forbes mentions here, follow the yellow bricks road to a new digital reserve currency. Well, they've already created the CBDCs across the board. I think 95% of countries, or 97% of countries, have the blueprints for their cashless currency. FedNow will be coming out in the U.S. in July, and that allows them to just ease into the new world reserve currency system very, very easily. All they have to do is change the name of the currency and the values versus the price of living, as we see the dollar get completely wiped out and this move into this basket of currencies, and it's cashless, of course, and they can track and trace you and surveil you everywhere. They can watch everything you do. They can control where and how you spend money, and it'll all be dependent on your social credit score based on your social media history and your carbon